There are players with league-winning potential being completely overlooked in casual leagues, but not by you because you're about to discover who they are. Starting with Drake London, who's going as pick 90 on ESPN leagues and pick 67 on Yahoo leagues. And I get it. People are worried about the offense. They're worried about Desmond Ridder. Can he support Drake London? But at pick 90 or pick 67, what does he really need to do? And this is a guy who has significantly more upside than people realize. Last year, as a rookie, he had a 29% target share, which ranked 5th among all wide receivers. If we project this Atlanta offense to go to just 30 pass attempts per game, which would still keep him in the bottom 5 offenses in the entire NFL, we're talking about 9 targets per game or 153 targets over a 17-game season. That would have ranked top 5 in the entire NFL last year. If Drake London is getting that kind of targets on a weekly basis, it's going to be hard for him to fail. Also, he showed the kind of progression you want to see from a rookie wide receiver. Not all rookie wide receivers can be Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase and just be awesome right from the get-go. But you look at it, he scored 14 or more PPR fantasy points in 3 of his last 5 games and 12 or more PPR points in 4 of his last 5 games. He obviously got more comfortable with the NFL game as the season went on, and that should only continue here into year 2 because he is a stud wide receiver, has first-round draft capital. And when you look at his route running last year, he was elite as a route runner, elite as a separator. He has all the tools you want in a stud wide receiver. As long as Desmond Ridder isn't worse than Marcus Mariota, and trust me, he won't be because Marcus Mariota legit might have been the worst quarterback to start an NFL game last year, but as long as he's not worse than him, Drake London has an incredible ceiling, and he'll at worst be a solid every week wide receiver 2 with the upside for plenty more that you're getting barely inside the top 100 players. Don't leave your draft without drafting Drake London. James Cook is another player with tremendous upside that people don't seem to realize. He's going as pick 89 on ESPN and pick 88 on Yahoo, so pretty much a later round pick in both formats. But even if you look at last year as a rookie, in games where he got to at least 40% of the snaps, he scored double-digit PPR points in all but one of those games. Now entering year 2 with the Nyheim Hines injury, there is a clear path to him getting more work this season. And he's not a guy that needs a lot of touches. He ranked 3rd in yards per touch last year and 1st in breakaway run rate. This guy can hit a home run anytime he has the ball. He's an efficient runner. He's an explosive runner. He has home run speed. He doesn't need to get a workhorse role. And despite the concerns with his size last year and, of course, barely seeing the field, he still had almost 100 carries. There's no reason to think he can't approach the 150 carry mark this year. He could probably get close to the 50 catch mark. And if he does that, he's going to be great where you're drafting him. He'll at least be an every week RB2 with plenty of upside that you're getting almost around pick 100. So again, James Cook, don't leave your drafts without drafting James Cook. Now, if you miss on early QB, just grab Deshaun Watson later, currently going as pick 82 on ESPN and pick 86 on Yahoo. He's quite possibly my favorite non-early QB because he actually has elite upside. We've seen it. Prior to last season, he had averaged at least 21.3 points per game every year of his career. And he's finished top 5 in points per game every year of his career prior to last year. But we knew it could be a down year for him last year. We cautioned everybody, don't run out, grab Deshaun Watson and start starting him right away. This is a guy coming off a lengthy suspension, a year where he didn't play, all the off the field stuff in a totally new system with totally new wide receivers. He's probably going to struggle. And guess what? He struggled, but that was to be expected, like we said. Now he's got a full offseason with this offense, with the coaches in this system, with these wide receivers, and he's got a ton of talent, even more talent than he ever had in Houston. Now, granted, he doesn't have a wide receiver on the level of DeAndre Hopkins, but he's got Amari Cooper. He's got Elijah Moore. He's got Donovan Peoples-Jones. He's got David Njoku, a great pass-catching tight end. He is surrounded by weapons. There is no reason to think he can't go back to scoring 21 plus points per game and be a top 5 QB again. So if you miss out on early QB this year, just wait a little bit and grab Deshaun Watson later. You'll be happy you did. And you'll also be happy if you grabbed Christian Kirk barely inside the top 100, picked 97 on ESPN and 85 on Yahoo. This is like mind-boggling to me. What is going on here? 7 times last year, this guy scored over 15 PPR points per game, and he finished the Jaguars' last 3 games scoring over 20 PPR points in all of them. Now, I get it. Calvin Ridley is there. He's going to be the number 1 guy. I love Calvin Ridley. I think he's going to be awesome. But there is plenty of room here for Christian Kirk. This could be very much like an A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith situation where you have kind of a 1A and a 1B, because Trevor Lawrence showed his talent last year. Over 4,000 yards, 25 touchdowns, and he's only going to get better this year. Don't be surprised if he gets around 4,500 yards and mid-30 touchdowns. They're not all going to go to Calvin Ridley. Christian Kirk is going to get his share. This is a guy that gives you a tremendous weekly ceiling, can win you multiple weeks throughout the season by himself, and where you're drafting him, he might not even be a starter for you. He's probably going to be a bench player, or at worst, one of your last flex pieces. This is a ridiculous value for a player like Christian Kirk. He's a talented player in a great offense. This is a passing offense I am trying to get as much exposure to as I can. So Christian Kirk in the spot is almost a must draft. And then we know there's a lot of risk with DeAndre Swift, but when you're taking him at pick 95 on ESPN or 77 on Yahoo, isn't the risk kind of wiped out? I mean, what is the risk here? Sure, he's in a bit of a crowded backfield. They got Rashad Penny. Kenneth Gainwell's starting to get some buzz. He might not catch a ton of passes because Jalen Hurts isn't a guy who checks it down a lot. But there's plenty to like here about DeAndre Swift. We know the talent. This guy was a great prospect coming out of college. He's been nothing but great with his opportunities in the NFL so far. Last year, he ranked 2nd in yards per touch, 5th in breakaway run rate, 10th in yards per reception, and 5th in yards per route run. So through the air and on the ground, he was highly efficient. And now he's in one of the best offenses behind the best offensive line in the NFL. We just saw Miles Sanders put up 1,300 total yards and 11 touchdowns in this offense. DeAndre Swift has a level that Miles Sanders just doesn't. I don't think Miles Sanders is bad, but DeAndre Swift has that next gear. And I think in this offense, we see it. He just needs the opportunity and needs to stay healthy. And where you're drafting him, like I said, the risk is already baked in. So basically, you're drafting him, hoping for the reward without any of the risk. That is a guy you've got to get every time. And I did briefly mention David Njoku, but let's mention David Njoku again, because why aren't we drafting this guy higher? He was great last year. He's currently going as pick 103 on ESPN, pick 89 on Yahoo. Why? He was the tight end 8 last year despite not playing in 3 games. He also had to play with Jacoby Brissett and then the Deshaun Watson I talked about, who was terrible. This year, he's going to get a good Deshaun Watson, which I already explained why, so I don't need to go into that again. And the thing I really love about David Njoku is he ranked 2nd in red zone targets among all tight ends, so he has a chance to score a touchdown every single week, which is what you're really looking for at the tight end position, because you can't bank on a guy, catching 100 yards and 10 catches at the tight end position. And I didn't mention this when I talked about Deshaun Watson, but I do expect the Browns to be much more of a pass-heavy team this year. They're paying Deshaun Watson a ton of money. He's an elite QB. They have passing game weapons. This isn't going to be the same old Browns that just run the ball and play boring offense. They're going to be different because they have the personnel to actually throw the football. Njoku is a tight end that gives you not only a great floor, but also a great ceiling that you can draft late where you don't have to go early tight end. You can take a running back or a wide receiver in those early rounds who have more upside and then just wait, get David Njoku. He's a guy you can start every week and feel good about. At a value, draft David Njoku every time. And then I'm not all in on Courtland Sutton this year, but at pick 107 on ESPN and 127 on Yahoo, I can't really pass up on that. Why is there a 60-plus pick difference between Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton? I know he's burned us 2 years in a row. He burned me for sure 2 years in a row, but he's still a talented player. There is not a significant difference in talent between Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton. These guys are like the 1A, 1B. And when you look at it last year, they had very similar target shares. They were targeted a similar percentage on the amount of routes they ran. The difference is Sutton plays the X receiver, which means he plays almost every snap, and all he is doing is running a route. He ran a route on 100% of his snaps last year. If you're going to believe that Sean Payton can save Russell Wilson, that's great. Maybe he can. But if he does, it's not going to be the Jerry Jeudy show. It's going to be the Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton show. So why draft Jerry Jeudy inside the top 50 players when you can just wait and get Sutton 50, 60 picks later? Also, if you believe in this kind of thing, he's getting a lot of buzz in camp, not just from the beat writers, but from Sean Payton himself. It sounds like he's fully healthy off the ACL. He's in great shape. Look, that doesn't always pan out, but the fact that he's getting the buzz means he's solidified as the guy there with Jerry Jeudy. This isn't going to be an offense where Russell Wilson just focuses on one guy. He's never done that. Sutton is going to have similar target share, similar numbers to Jerry Jeudy, and you're getting him 60 picks later. Let one of your other league mates take Jeudy in the 4th round or whatever, and just take Sutton later if you want a piece of this Broncos offense. Now, I'm not super high on Brandin Cooks this year, but at pick 104 on ESPN and 113 on Yahoo, yeah, I'll take my chances on Brandin Cooks in this spot, because one thing about Brandin Cooks is he still has the speed and he still has the vertical game. Also, when you look at his numbers in Houston last year, he ranked 84th in catchable target percentage and only had a pathetic 9 red zone targets. What are you going to do when your quarterback is inaccurate and you're not getting the ball thrown to you in the red zone? You're probably going to struggle and be pretty terrible. Now, I don't think Brandin Cooks is going to bounce back and be an 1,100-yard, 1,200-yard wide receiver like he was in his prime, but he doesn't need to be, because again, you're drafting him outside the top 100 players. But now he's in Dallas with Dak Prescott, so you got to think the catchable target rate will go way up, as will his red zone targets, because unlike the Houston offense that couldn't get in the red zone, Dallas will be in the red zone plenty. The fact that he still had his speed last year and was such a good vertical threat is great, because Dak Prescott can throw the deep ball. He's not going to be a guy that's going to give you a nice, safe floor every week, but that shouldn't be what you're looking for at this point of the draft. You want a guy who can win you weeks, give you tremendous upside. You got to start him when guys are on bye. You got to start him as a flex, when you have injuries, and he has the capability to put up a huge game and help your team win. That's what you're looking for with guys in this range. That's what Brandin Cooks will do for you this year. Then let's finish with a couple rookies, starting with Jordan Addison, pick 118 on ESPN and 114 on Yahoo. Basically, almost undrafted. Why? This guy was a great talent. He just got drafted in the 1st round of the NFL draft. He's a perfect complement to Justin Jefferson, and he's a perfect fit for this system, because this system is not a system where one guy lines up in one spot and one guy lines up in the others. They move him all over. Even Justin Jefferson, they move him all over the field. Also, the Vikings were a top 5 passing offense last year, and that's not going to change this year, because they still have a bottom 3, maybe even a bottom 1 defense. So they're going to be in a ton of high-scoring games where they're throwing the ball a lot. And the wide receiver he's replacing, Adam Thielen, had the 2nd most routes run of all wide receivers last year and was terrible. He's a significant upgrade over Adam Thielen, and they're going to use him. If he gets the usage Adam Thielen got last year, he's going to be incredible. And he's getting to play alongside Justin Jefferson, who we know is going to be the focus of every defense. This guy is going to get so many layup throws. When Kirk Cousins drops back, doesn't see Jefferson open, Addison's going to be running across the middle, uncovered, because nobody can worry about him. He's going to get so many easy throws. I really believe Jordan Addison leads all rookie wide receivers in yards and receptions this year. This is one of those rookie wide receivers who will help teams win fantasy championships. But the rookie wide receiver who may score the most fantasy points is Zay Flowers, currently going at a ridiculous 137 on ESPN and 127 on Yahoo, barely even being drafted. He's in a great situation in Baltimore. We keep talking about it. Todd Monken, they're going to play faster and they're going to throw the ball more. And Zay Flowers is one of the top wide receiver prospects in this class. He can do everything. You can line him up anywhere you want, use him in all sorts of different ways. And when you look at the guys around him, you got Rashad Bateman, who just finally came back from the PUP list. Who knows how long he's going to be healthy for. You got Odell Beckham, who's had 2 ACL surgeries on the same knee, mind you. And then you got tight ends like Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. It is not hard to see a path for Zay Flowers eventually becoming the #1 wide receiver on this Ravens offense. And with the pace they're going to play and the amount they're going to throw, this guy is going to have massive weekly upside. He may not start off fast like Addison will, but eventually he's going to come around. And I could see him being similar to what we saw from Amon-Ra St. Brown a couple of years ago, where he's not doing anything, people give up on him, and then the team goes on the bye, and they come off the bye, and suddenly it's the Zay Flowers show. Don't be surprised if that's what we see this year, and don't be surprised if Zay Flowers is on a ton of championship teams, including yours, because you're going to draft him now, right? So there's some league winners your friends aren't drafting, but here's some wide receivers ready to win your fantasy league.